I've been through days I pray to never go back to. Make the brokenness look at bad too. I go back for life.
Welcome to Giving Voices, the podcast where we amplify the voices of young people and tackle the pressing issues of our time. I'm your host Bruno, and today we're going to be diving deep into the topic of growing up in Dudley. So, let's start by getting to know each other a little bit better. We'll go around introducing ourselves, tell us your age, where you was born, and where you're originally from. So let's start here with you.
My name is Leo. I'm 19 years old. I was born in Birmingham City Hospital, and my family originates from South Africa.
From my time, so my name is Raphael. I was born in Portugal, and
You forgot where you was born.
yeah, I forgot. I can't lie. But my family are originally from Cape Verde.
Yeah.
My name is Ezekiel. I'm 16. I was born in Queen Elizabeth Hospital. My family's from Nigeria.
Okay. And I'm Bruno. I was born in Portugal as well, and originally from Cape Verde. So, before we start, I just got a quick question, just out of curiosity. Pepsi or Coke?
Pepsi or Coke?
Yes.
Yo, I think they're all the same, yo.
I mean, it's obviously Coke.
What do you think?
Quite different to be fair. I have to say Coke, you know.
I see no difference, bro. But yeah, I see. So, you said Coke. Why do you think Coke?
Because it tastes better. Pepsi tastes like a malnourished version of Coke.
That's crazy.
Listen, if you used to put Pepsi and Coke next to each other, right?
I would know which one's a Coke.
No, you wouldn't, bro.
You
Definitely would.
You can taste it.
Okay, after this podcast, we're actually gonna put that to the test.
Of course, we have to.
But yeah, we're getting off topic. So, the first question I have is, how did everyone end up in Dudley? We'll start with you, Leo.
I first came to Dudley, I think when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Me and my mom just really bouncing around from place to place, and then we ended up in Dudley because my auntie was also living here, so it made sense for my mom to come and be by a family that she could trust, and that's how I ended up here pretty much.
Yeah.
I could really say the same. That's literally it.
So,
Yeah. But we came over here because of education.
yeah.
Education over here is way better than Portugal.
So
Like-
go into that. Like, where did you come from? What country you was living in at
Well,
first?
At first we were living in Cape Verde,
Yeah.
then we moved to Portugal. And in Portugal, obviously I have learning disabilities and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So my mom kind of had to look into places where it would be way better for me to live in. For example, in Portugal, they don't give you the same help that you do get in England. Places.
How old was you when you came here?
I was 8, 7,
Yeah.
around the majors.
And you, Ezekiel, obviously you said you was born here, right? How was you born? You wasn't born in Dudley, was you?
I was born in London.
How come you moved to Dudley?
I mean, when I was in London, I moved to there's north, west, south, and east.
Yeah.
I've lived in most places, and then, but I probably thought, no point in living in London anymore, so we moved to Dudley for work.
Yeah.
So I just kind of just stayed.
How long was you in London for?
From when I was born to 14 or 15.
Okay, so you came here in year 9. Okay. How different was the school from here to London?
I wouldn't really say there's much difference, really, just the accents.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I first came here, people speaking to me, I was thinking, what are you talking
Did it catch you off guard?
about?
So, what would you say was your first impression of Dudley then? Would you say it's the accent?
Yeah,
And what? So the accent really stood out.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So Leo, how would you say, like, yeah, just like I asked him, what was your first impression of Dudley when you came here?
Pretty much the same thing, just the people. Wherever I was from, like, people mainly sounded the same because bounced around from places like Birmingham to Handsworth, and even in Northampton, no one really sounded drastically different.
Yeah.
When I came to Dudley, oh my god, people sound crazy here.
What about you, Raphael? What would you say as
I
well?
mean, when I moved here, I didn't even know how to speak English.
Yeah.
So obviously, like I never really saw anything about accents. But I went to, in high school, I went to St. James.
Yeah.
And in St. James, everyone basically sounds like me, which was cool until I moved to Beacon Hill.
Yeah.
And I was with a bunch of white people. And everyone sounded like, they had like a different type of accent. I feel
Yeah.
like in Dudley, wherever you live, everyone's accents are different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can literally go down the road and you hear a whole different accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One thing I used to do was, when I came here, right?
Yeah.
When we came here,
Yeah.
I didn't speak any English, so I couldn't tell like a difference in accent. What I used to do was compare people to cartoons, English cartoons I had seen back in Portugal and in Cape Verde. I'd be like, that looks like that cartoon that I saw back in Portugal. And then, but really and truly, these were all American cartoons, so I was just imagining things. But yeah, so Leo, did you speak, when you came here, did you already speak English or did you have to learn it?
No, I spoke clean English when I came to Dudley.
Yeah. And how did you learn to speak English?
Okay, so I was born here, but my family has this tradition of sorts where when you're born from a different country,
Yeah.
you go and live in the home country where the main family's from for like the first 3 years of your life, just to take in the culture. So when I came here, I didn't speak English, and I had like 2 years to learn before I started year one. So I learned English from watching TV shows.
Yeah.
So I ended up speaking very American when I started.
Yeah, I remember because we did go to the same school. I used to think when I actually started speaking English and I realized your accent was different, I was like, I used to think you was American. I used to actually think you was American. And Raphael, how did you find it, like having to learn a new language? Because when you came here, you spoke no English as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of picked it up. The
Yeah.
more you live here, the more people you interact
How long would you say it took you to learn?
About 3 months. 3
Yeah.
to 4 months, something
Yeah.
like
So how did you communicate at first when you couldn't
that.
speak?
Yes, no's.
Yes.
Yes, no's, nods. That's about it, man.
Yeah. And what would you say the social situation was like? Did you make any
Social
friends
situation?
at the start?
Me, nah, not really,
Yeah.
Like, I went to one school, but for some reason everyone bullied me because I didn't know how to speak English.
Yeah,
Like,
because
yo,
you was in primary school when we came
exactly,
here, right?
like, yo, everyone was bullying me because I didn't know how to speak English
Yeah.
and stuff. And I was just thinking like, yo, I don't know how to speak English. How am I getting bullied?
Yeah.
I was thinking, damn, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine though, going up to the new kid asking, "Oh, what's your name? How old are you?" Yes.
Yes. No.
That's probably why I got bullied.
But I think I was a little bit lucky because when I came, I was already in secondary school. There's not a lot of bullying in secondary schools. You'll mostly see it in primary school. So I get a couple people laughing at me here and there, but a lot of the time, I don't know if it's because I couldn't speak English, but it felt like they was laughing with me because I was laughing with them.
I don't know,
See,
but
He was laughing at you, but you're just such a happy person. You didn't realize.
Yeah.
But I think also because you played sports.
Yeah.
When you started playing sports, that's when we started understanding you better.
Yeah. Because I feel like when it comes to activities, things that you're playing as a team, it's a lot better to develop those bonds. Yeah. And I remember as well, because I couldn't speak English, so I see kids playing in the field, I would just join in. They would tell me to go away, I couldn't understand. If they told me to go away, I just keep playing. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, so I'm gonna just keep playing. And then eventually they're like, alright, you can just stay and play. But yeah, but once you learn to speak English, is obviously it's like you're seeing it in a different lens, because you're actually understanding what people think, what people think about you and stuff. Yeah. So next question. So how did you like find the educational system?
easier.
Yeah.
I mean, like more support and stuff for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Portugal, really is you get taught, you have a test by the end of the year. If you haven't passed the test, you redo the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. But like in England, you it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's what they do in a lot of countries in Europe. Like, if you don't pass, like, for example, your SATs.
Yeah.
If you wasn't to pass that, if you didn't pass your SATs, you'd have to repeat that year. So, and then they don't have a lot of support with learning disabilities. So a lot of kids that have learning disabilities would have to end up repeating years and years and years. For example, when I was in primary school in Cape Verde, there was this kid. I started in year 2, right? This kid in my class, he was autistic, and he didn't really have any help with that. So as I was going up in years, when I was in year 6, he was still in year 2. So yeah, so they don't really help with that. That's why it was a lot better when we came to UK, because you know what really matters is your GCSEs all the way in year 11. But yeah. So Leo, how did you find the educational system here? And was you in school in South Africa as well?
Yeah, I was in school, but it doesn't really count in school. It's more like a daycare. But instantly, I could see that school here was a lot less strict and a lot more supportive. There, they kind of like, they want to push you to get the results at that young age. But when you come here, it's more like they coddle you a lot more. It's like, oh, it's okay if you don't get the results now. You'll get them eventually.
Yeah, and then you can reset.
Yeah, that was the biggest difference, I would say.
Ezekiel, how was school in London? Because you came here in year 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find the school there compared to here?
Well, compared, I would say over here, it might not seem like it. There's a lot more like control over the students, because back then, like, man were just running around doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
When I was year 9, obviously, so no one was really taking it serious. But when I moved over here, there was a lot more control, a lot more stability in classes.
Yeah.
Probably why you messed around so much. Flipping out.
Yeah. I feel like in the early years, school here is a lot easier, because I'm not sure why, but for example in Cape Verde, they make you advance in topic way too quick. Like, they don't wait for students to catch up. They're like, this is what you're gonna do now, and if you're not done by a certain time, it is what it is. We're gonna have to move on to the next topic. So when I came here, I used to find classes, for example, like maths, very easy. Obviously, only up until like year 10, because they take their time with trying to teach you and stuff. But one question I do have to ask is, did you have any hardships when you was here?
Can you elaborate?
So, what's some difficulties you had to face when you first came here? Let's start with Julia and go around.
I didn't really have to face any difficulties. I mean, even learning English,
Yeah.
I wasn't really out and about in the public like that. By the time I started school here, I spoke pretty decent English, so not really that much difficulties. I got on in school, played sports all my life, so it's pretty much been easy to make friends.
Yeah.
So not that much difficulties really.
Okay. What about you, Rafa?
I mean, me, it was way different to you, because you had, like, for example, when you lived in Portugal,
Yeah.
you had already learnt a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah.
When I moved over here, I feel like I missed out on a lot of things, because I was learning English instead of learning the main basic things that I should be learning, like year 3, year 4, which I wasn't learning because I was learning English.
Yeah.
So then let's say, when I did learn English, I still hadn't caught up to the things that, I was meant to.
Yeah, we skipped a year when we came here as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we started school primary school back in Cape Verde, and I'm pretty sure they start school a year later there. So when we came here, I was meant to go to year 5,
Yeah.
and you was meant to go to
Yeah.
year 2,
I was
3,
meant
right?
to go year 3 and then they put me in year 4.
Yeah, and I was put in year 7. And I remember because I was very tiny, I used to see these year 11 kids, right, wearing the same school uniform that I was going to wear, because I started school a couple weeks after school had already started.
Yeah.
I used to think I was going to be in the same class as them. 'Cause in my head, because I'm going up one year, I'm thinking I'm going to be with, I don't know how the maths was working in my head, but I was thinking I was going to be with kids way older than me. But then when I actually went to class, it was a huge relief, because I actually saw kids that were my age that looked like me. And yeah. What about you, Ezekiel? Did you have any difficulties in Dudley when you first came to school here?
I wouldn't really say it's a difficulty, but like, one thing is fitting in. Because, well, for one, like, I sound different. Second of all, I'm in year 9, so everyone's already in their friendship groups, meaning that I've got to fit in somewhere, and no one knows me, so.
Yeah, but you did fit in though.
I did fit in.
Nah, because as soon as he moved to the school, right? As soon as he moved to the school, it was like me, Kyrie, and the boys. And we would walk into the bathrooms. Because actually, this was like after COVID times. So they had like these stools, right? And we just saw him walking around the corner, and we came up to him and started speaking to him.
Yeah.
We were so confused.
Yeah. So like in your school, right?
Yeah.
Did you have like different groups, like the cool kids, the nerds,
Yeah.
the other kids? Did you have different groups in your school as
Put
well?
it like this, yeah. There was a group of a bunch of white people, and then there was just us. Lot.
Yeah.
That's it. Like yo, if you went like to St James, you'd probably get that. But in Beacon, it was just white people. Like,
Yeah.
but obviously, like it's no racist thing type of thing. Like you'll be in the playground, you'll be playing basketball with your black friends, and you can go socialize with the white people like down at the bottom of the playground. But nothing crazy.
I feel like it sounds a little stereotypical, but when you think about it, you're just gonna radiate to people that you relate to, people that you find similarities
which
in.
happened over time.
Yeah.
So when I moved to the school, there wasn't like many black people until eventually everyone started kind of coming in.
Yeah. Like in my school, obviously, me and Leo was in the same group. There was more like, there was no like cool kids or whatever. It depended on what your hobbies were.
Yeah.
So we had a group of like the kids that play sports, which was, I think it was the main group because most people in the school either played football or basketball, and then the kids that were into like games and stuff, they always used to stay inside. So it's not really as in like you chose to. For example, if I was playing sports, right?
Yeah.
I'm always outside, and I'm gonna see the people that are always outside.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna chill with them. Yeah.
For sure.
What about you, Leo? What would you say about the groups? Like, yeah, what group did you radiate to? You know,
I just think
what did you think about the groups?
and stuff is more like a movie cliche.
Yeah.
I didn't realize any groups. I was friends with anyone that was cool. If I could have a cool conversation with you, then we can be friends.
Yeah.
But I mostly hung around the people that played the same sports that I played because I was always playing sports. But I didn't have any specific friends that I gravitated to.
For me, I feel like at the start, right? When I had, for example, in year 7, year 8, I didn't really have like a group. I was more like, I was that one kid that would just go to see different people and go to them.
Yeah,
you know,
just
I was pretty much everywhere because I wasn't there for long enough where I feel safe with this group or I feel more comfortable with this group. It's more like everyone just seems the same to me, so I don't really care who I chill with.
Throughout high school, everyone loved you, bro. I just thought little Bruno's coming over.
Yeah, I was a tiny kid, you know, always smiling and stuff. But yeah. So, would you say, did you guys face any sort of like discrimination or anything like that growing up? I feel like a lot of people get discriminated depending on the area they are. Because for me, I see a lot of people talk about it, but I think I didn't really see it because of the people that I chilled with. Yeah.
I would say I did face discrimination, but nothing I really took to heart.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you don't mess with me, don't mess with me. That's how I felt about it. Like the occasional thing, like walking into a shop and being followed. A lot of people would see that as kind of a big thing, or they let it get to them, but I just find it funny.
Yeah.
Like you could be following me and then someone on the other aisle could steal something and you're not doing your job. So
even
it is.
Yeah, even though it does happen, I feel like the best way to deal with it is to like, obviously there's certain cases that you have to tell people about, when it gets too extreme. But sometimes like little things, because the less you talk about it, the less people think about it. So sometimes it just comes down to ignorance, and you just gotta let some things slide.
I think that's the main thing to ignorance, because when I went to my primary school and I came here, I could feel the energy, because I looked a lot different from a lot of people in my primary school. There's only really like 3 other black kids in my year that were boys, at least, that I gravitated towards. So I think because of ignorance, people didn't really know how to approach me, didn't really know how to become friends with me. But when we started playing sports, there's no real color in sports. It's just, are you good enough for me to want you on my team?
Yeah.
And then once we started playing sports together, we broke those type of barriers down. Everyone was like, oh, he's cool. Like, he doesn't look like us, but he's cool. We can be friends.
Yeah, I feel like there's a slight difference between ignorance and actual racism. For example, when I was in school, I used to have a huge afro, right?
Yeah.
The teachers or the white kids, they would come like, oh, can I touch your afro? Let me touch your hair. And I'd be like, I mean, that's a little weird, but go ahead, I guess.
Yeah.